You're listening to The Voluntary Life, where you can hear ideas for finding freedom in an unfree world. Visit thevoluntarylife.com to connect with the show and hear all past episodes. Here's your host, Jake.
Hi, it's Jake here. Welcome to The Voluntary Life. In this episode, I'd like to talk about 3 questions that have come up that I've heard a few times around entrepreneurship and getting more freedom in your life. Now, as you know, I talk about entrepreneurship a lot on this show, and the reason that I do is because I'm interested in freedom and fulfillment in life. I think that a life well lived is a life where you seize as much freedom as you can and do something awesome with it, gain as much fulfillment as possible. And for me, the most important kind of freedom is freedom that I can actually achieve in my own life, or that we can all achieve in our own lives. I think entrepreneurship is the best way to live as freely as possible and to live the most fulfilling life possible. I view it as kind of like a personal development program in every sense of the word, financially, technically, and also psychologically. So I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship and what a positive role it plays in getting more freedom in your life. And I wanted to talk about 3 interesting questions that come up around this. And the first question that comes up is, don't you need to have a certain personality type in order to become an entrepreneur? So isn't entrepreneurship something that's really only applicable to people with a specific kind of personality? And I think what people often think of when they say this is a very extroverted, outgoing type of personality, because I guess that's kind of the cliche of the entrepreneur. My view is that there is no entrepreneurial personality type. I know extrovert entrepreneurs and introverts, and I know entrepreneurs who are very much big picture people and others who are much better at dealing with the details. It's just a question of style of leadership or style of doing business. Anyone can be an entrepreneur and they will just do the business in their own personal style. And in fact, that's part of the great diversity and plurality of what you see in people's businesses out there. And it reminds me of a metaphor that I read once about the difference between how different personality types lead. And this is actually a military metaphor. It was comparing extroverts and introverts and comparing what an extrovert general is like and an introvert general and what their styles of leadership are like. So the idea is that an extrovert is the kind of general who, if you think of this in the old days, he would be on top of his horse, like doing the typical speech to the troops, before they go off into war, right at the front, leading the charge and being that kind of iconic speech-making type of general. And then there's the other type of general, which is the mastermind, who is up on the hill in the tent with grand plans and schemes all around him. And, if you get called in to speak to him, you'll be lucky because he's super busy dealing with things and he has minions going off and doing all of his tasks for him. And that's the introvert style of leadership. Both these styles have their advantages and disadvantages, but the point is they're both totally valid ways of doing something. And the same applies to entrepreneurship. So there's no personality type for entrepreneurs. Anyone can be an entrepreneur, and in doing so, you bring your own personality to it. And that's one of the beautiful things about your business, is it will be, in some ways, a reflection of your own choice. How you choose to run it and how you choose to create it will reflect your personality. The second question that comes up sometimes is, some people have said to me that entrepreneurship might be right for some people, but it's not right for everyone. It's not something that would make everyone happy. And in fact, some people really wouldn't enjoy it. It's definitely not right for them. The kind of stresses and challenges involved are not right for some personality types. I do understand this. I mean, it is a very stressful thing to set up your own business. And it's certainly uncomfortable. It made me feel very uncomfortable. And it involves a lot of challenges. But I have to say I disagree with this objection, because I think it's a bit like saying that freedom only suits some people, or growing up, or self-actualization. All of these things are stressful, and they involve being outside your comfort zone, and they're very challenging things. But ultimately, they're extremely fulfilling. It's painful and scary, but nonetheless, I think that the psychological challenge of going out there and learning how to negotiate and provide value for value reciprocally is something that I really believe ultimately brings everyone closer to who they really are, and is potentially beneficial for everyone, even though it does involve going through an uncomfortable time where any unresolved issues that you haven't dealt with about how you cope in life come to the fore. And entrepreneurship really does force you to face all your demons in that way. But I still think it's worth it, and I still think it's a great program for self-actualization. Starting your own business enables you to do the best work that you're capable of and be as close to your own purpose as you are able to be. And that's good for everyone. The last objection that I hear sometimes is the question, do I really think that everyone could be entrepreneurs? I mean, could we all be entrepreneurs at the same time? Could we have a world where everyone is an entrepreneur? My answer to that is absolutely yes. We could live in a world where everyone's an entrepreneur, everyone works for themselves, and business relationships are vast connections of independent contractors who work together on projects and then team up for a while and have whatever flexible arrangements they want. But there's nothing stopping everyone from being an entrepreneur at the same time. Perhaps this is the world that we are going towards. Maybe this is one possible future that we're going towards. It's certainly a lot easier now to be an independent contractor than it has been in the past, technologically speaking. And in some ways, you could say that even if you work for somebody else, you still have an entrepreneurial function in your life. You still have to find work at some points, and that forces everybody to be an entrepreneur to a certain degree, even if they seek employee jobs for most of their career. But I think it's totally possible for everyone to be an entrepreneur, and for us to live in a world of independent contractors. I mean, that is the kind of revolution that I am trying to promote with this show. I think everyone would be happier, more free and more fulfilled being an entrepreneur, and the world would be a far more peaceful and prosperous place if that were the case. So yeah, I hope we are moving towards that future, because I think it would be awesome.
Thank you for listening to The Voluntary Life. If you have feedback about the show, please email jake@thevoluntarylife.com. If you enjoyed this program, please share the podcast with your friends or click the donate button on thevoluntarylife.com.